guys, it's Vanya and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about YA books that I've loved and I highly recommend for you guys to read. So one thing about me is I love young adult books that have zero spice, low spice, because it just feels way better, like in my opinion. So I have read like quite a lot of YA books like in the past 2 years since I started reading again. So here are some of them that I would highly recommend for you guys to read. The first book is my all-time favorite. Like when I say all-time, it's like I am obsessed with this book. It's Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. One thing about Lynn Painter's writing is she is so good at writing like young adult books because it has like that pop culture references that are like relevant to like what's happening currently. So it just feels like you're seeing like these characters in like a rom-com movie or something, because it gives off like that fun, easygoing vibes from like her writing. So I highly recommend Better Than the Movies. Also, the sequel recently came out. It's titled Nothing Like the Movies, which was so good as well. So I highly recommend like both of these books. I rated both of them 5 stars. It's about Wes and Liz. They are neighbors and they have been fighting over this one parking spot. Suddenly, like one of their childhood friends came back to town and Liz is starting to develop feelings for him. So Liz, seeing that this guy, Michael, is very close with Wes, she decided to ask Wes for his help to get closer to Michael. And it's just like Wes and Liz's story. And Nothing Like the Movies is basically like a continuation of that story. I don't want to give off like any spoiler, but that's sort of like a little bit of like the plot. So I highly recommend this book if you like rom-coms, if you like Taylor Swift and music. The next book is also by Lynn Painter. It's Betting on You. So Betting on You is about Charlie and Bailey. So they met like in an airplane like a few years ago, and then now they met each other again. Now they're working at the same place. So it's got that fun like dynamic of like co-worker, but like they've known each other like from years before. It was so fun to read. Like it's probably like my first 5-star reads of this year, if I remember correctly. But yeah, I rated that 5 stars. And also another YA by Lynn Painter is The Do-Over. It's about Emily and Nick. The plot for this one is like Emily wakes up and it's Valentine's Day, and then something happens and then she wakes up, it's Valentine's Day again. So it's kind of like a Groundhog Day type of situation where the day that's like going over and over again is like Valentine's Day. But it was so fun, but it's definitely not like my favorite because I personally don't really like Groundhog Day situation. So I rated that one 3 stars, but I highly recommend like the other YA Lynn Painter's books. So if there is one book that you get from this video, let it be Better Than the Movies, because it's just that book. The next book is The Summer of Broken Rules by K.L. Walther. Right after Lynn Painter in the list is K.L. Walther. Like she just writes the best YA book. Like the vibes, the characters. Like for example, The Summer of Broken Rules is about Meredith and Whit. So Meredith is like a bridesmaid in her cousin's wedding, and Whit is like one of the groomsmen from like the men's side of like the bride and groom. So like their family is hosting like a wedding in Martha's Vineyard, and they have like this tradition of playing assassins, and they just team up to like basically be the winner of the game. But then something happened. You have to read it to like know what happens, but that's basically like the plot of the book. This one, I kid you not, I finished it in like one sitting because like I love the vibes, I love like the banter between like the main characters, and it's just so fun and it makes me happy. Like reading this book, I just have like the biggest smile in my face like while reading it. So I highly recommend this book as well. And While on the same page, another Kale Walters books, YA books, that I've read and was really fun for me to read is What Happens After Midnight. It's about Lily and Tag. They used to date, but something happened. Now they've broken up. But then there's this senior thing called Senior Tag, I believe. Or is it like a... It's sort of like a senior tradition in their high school. And she has to help Tag to make sure that this thing like goes well for like their last year of high school. I think for me, vibes is a very important thing when reading a book. So when I first start reading Kale Walters' book, The Summer of Broken Rules, I immediately know that I will love like her writing, because like she sets the vibes of the book like so great. It's just easy to understand and easy to follow, like the story of it. It's just the best. Like I had the best time reading both of like Kale Walters' book, and I want to read like more of Kale Walters' book like in the future. The next book is I Wish You Would by Effa De Laurier. I really hope I'm pronouncing that right. I have talked about this book in like my favorite books of 2024 so far. This book is so amazing. It's kind of similar to What Happens After Midnight, but they didn't date before. Like they used to be like the best of friends. Like they used to be like childhood best friends. But then something happens, and now this time in this book it's like senior sunrise, so they had to go to the beach with like all of their like classmates, and they have to like write these letters like what they hopes to achieve by the end of like their senior year. And it's just so good, like the vibes of like the beach and like the activities that they did there, and it just gives off like the best vibe ever. So like I really recommend you to read this book. I rated it 5 stars. The next one is You and Me Honeybee by Gemma Nichols. This, I also mentioned about it in my favorite books of 2024 so far. It's about RT and B. It is the second book in a series, but you can read it like separately. It's just interconnected series. And I just love like both of like the main characters because they are so good. They feel so real, like they're like actual people, and it feels like I am seeing a movie in my head. So I highly recommend you to read this book. The next book is A Royal's Game by Georgina Bolam. This one, I also talked about it in my favorite books of 2024 video, but it's about Stella that was in a workhouse. She gets chosen to live in a palace for like 1 year, and it's about her life in the palace and how she's like adjusting and finding like herself, dealing with like trying to fit in and believing in like herself and her own abilities to like survive. It reminds me of like Barbie Princess Charm School. If you have watched that movie, it is very niche, I know, but I love Barbie movies, so when I read this book, it just reminds me of like watching Barbie Princess Charm School. Like the vibes of it gives like that fairy tale-esque vibes, and if you love Olivia Rodrigo, you'll love this book. So I highly recommend this book. I rated it also 5 stars. And the next one is a series, well, 2 series, because it's by like the same author. The first one is the Natural series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This series, dare I say, my favorite series of all time, because of like the way that it is written. It just makes you want to like read more and more and more about their story. So it's about like these 4 teenagers that have special abilities that got hired by FBI to solve cases that the FBI gotten, and like the found family of it, the suspense. I love this series so much. Especially I love Sloane's characters. So there's 4 characters, Cassie, Dean, Sloane, Leah. Oh no, there's 5. And Michael. There's 5 characters. What did I say 4? There's 5 characters. If you are in like a series mood and you want to binge read like a series, I highly recommend The Naturals. There's no spice, there's just vibes. So on to the next series is also by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, which I am sure you've probably heard of it because it is everywhere on like social media. Is the Inheritance Scheme series. It's about Avery that surprisingly got inherited like this huge amount of inheritance from like an old man that she doesn't even know about. So she has to live in this like huge mansion and trying to figure out why she got inherited like all of that fortune, along with like the grandchildren of said old man. So it is very intriguing. I literally like binge read like this series in like 3 days, I think. There's 3 books. Finish it in like 3 days, I think. But that it was so good. Like it keeps you on edge. It keeps you like wondering what actually happens and why did she inherit that big of a fortune. So yeah, I highly recommend you to read the Inheritance Games. Although I would say I like the Naturals better than the Inheritance Game series, and I do think that it's very very underrated. So yeah, those are the YA books that I would highly recommend you to read. Hopefully there are some books that you have not read yet, because I noticed that most of these books are probably already like popular. That's why I kind of like already read it, because I've seen it somewhere and I wanted to read it. That's why I read it. But hopefully you get like some recommendations that you have not read to add to your TBR. Comment down below if you have any other like YA books that you've loved that I have not mentioned, because I would love to get some recommendations as well. But yeah, thanks for watching, and if you like this video, I have a Bookstagram account if you want to follow, where I post like a full on review for every books that I've read. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next Wednesday. Bye!